Well, look, I don't want to rub it in or anything, but I know that you are really prolific with your mollusk observations, especially on the shell grit, right? And I just didn't see so many of those observations from you this time. What's going on there?
Absolute tragedy. Just everything that could go wrong went wrong for me. I think that the first issue was that I'd already set up all the days before. I already had like a plan what I would do on each day, which I do for every BioBlitz. And I had planned to go on the Monday for the shells. And unfortunately, the way the tides were, it didn't matter which day I had picked out of the four. The tides were like quite late in the day and like a pretty bad time for me. But the only time I could go to the beach, it was quite high tide. So that kind of scrapped things a little bit. For people that are unfamiliar with Sydney beaches, one of the best places to go is Long Reef. So that's in the northern suburbs of Sydney, and it's got a huge rock platform extending out past the headland, and it's an absolute hotspot for all kinds of really cool marine organisms, not just seashells, but all kinds of nudibranchs and all the kind of things that Nick would have been seeing as well out in the rock pools. And it's normally my big draw card for these BioBlitzes. I'll go out and I'll get kind of 250 to 300 species in just a couple of hours. You know, getting down into that shell grit, looking at the micro shells, you can kind of pick up 100 species in 5 square meters. So it's a kind of a hugely efficient use of your time. And it was an absolute desert. Normally, whenever I go, there's an absolute jackpot of shells, and there was just absolutely nothing that day. All the shell deposits washed up were kind of the old bleached, white and broken stuff that's just been sitting there for months. There was no fresh deposits on the water's edge. And as I said, it was because it was high tide. I couldn't really wade out and get to some of the deeper stuff without going underwater, and I swim like a rock. And then I went to one of the adjoining beaches, Coleroy Beach, because that often has a little shell bank washed up sometimes. And it did have a pretty decent shell bank, but it was just underwater. And the way it was already, by that time I got to that beach, it was full low tide, and it was still underwater. And so I kind of had a 15-second window every 5 minutes where the waves would completely recede. I had to dash in, grab like a couple of shells in my hand, and then the waves would come crashing back in again, and I'd have to sprint back up the beach, look at my little measly pile of shells, and then wait another 5 minutes for the waves to go back. So I think I ended up getting maybe 140, 150 species of shell, which I definitely didn't expect I'd get that many, but it was suddenly well below what I was expecting, unfortunately. So I think if I'd had a decent day, I don't think I would have caught Nick. I think it was around 180 species ahead of me, but maybe I would have been a little bit more competitive towards the end.
This is just after a period of 2 months of lockdown. You're just dreaming of getting to the beach and observing your beloved shells, and they're just getting pounded by this swell. Other users on the beach are just looking at this guy running and grabbing the sand. I mean, what a sight.
It was absolute heartbreak. As you said, it was the first time I'd been to a beach in about 3 months because of COVID. So it was a bit of a downer after I'd built it up to be an exciting event.